The scent of burning sandalwood and jasmine floated in the night air, mixing with the distant sound of drums from the lower city. The palace balcony stretched wide before Tariq, overlooking the kingdom bathed in silver moonlight. The warm night breeze whispered against his skin, carrying the murmur of the world beyond these royal walls. But he wasn't thinking about the world tonight. His thoughts were consumed by one man. A presence stirred behind him, a warmth, a shadow, a king. Tariq. Obasi's voice was like velvet, deep and sure, threading through the night air. Tariq turned slowly, his breath catching as their eyes met. The golden glow of palace lanterns danced over Obasi's rich, dark skin, highlighting the sharp cut of his jaw, the fullness of his lips, the intensity of his gaze. They had stood like this before, close, on the edge of something dangerous. But tonight, there were no walls between them. Obasi stepped forward, closing the distance. His fingers brushed against Tariq's wrist, a fleeting touch before he cupped Tariq's face in his hands. Tariq felt the heat of Obasi's palms against his skin, his own heart hammering wildly. "You don't have to hide anymore," Obasi murmured. Tariq exhaled softly. "Neither do you." And then Obasi kissed him. Not a stolen kiss, not a hidden kiss, a kiss that belonged to them. It was slow, deep, unrushed, like an oath spoken in silence. Obasi didn't stop kissing Tariq, didn't pull away as he had done before. Not this time. The taste of him, warm, intoxicating, unraveled something inside Obasi, something he had spent years controlling. Tariq's hands found their way to Obasi's waist, pulling him closer, their bodies now pressed together, skin against silk, heat against heat. Obasi's breath hitched as Tariq's lips left his and trailed slowly along his jaw, down the strong column of his neck. A shudder passed through him. "Tariq," he whispered, voice thick with something dangerous, something hungry. Tariq smiled against his skin. "Yes, my king." Obasi's fingers tightened in his robes. "Say it again." Tariq leaned in, his lips brushing against Obasi's ear as he whispered, "My king." And just like that, the last restraint shattered. Obasi captured Tariq's mouth again, this time with fire, with hunger, with possession. His hands slid down, gripping Tariq's waist, holding him steady. Tariq let out a sharp gasp, not in protest, but in surrender. Sunlight streamed in through the heavy silk curtains, spilling golden light across the bed. The room smelled of sandalwood and warmth. Tariq stirred, his bare skin brushing against the cool sheets. He turned his head and found Obasi already awake, watching him. "You're staring," Tariq murmured, his voice thick with sleep. Obasi gave a slow smile, his fingers tracing a lazy path down Tariq's chest. "I like what I see." Tariq let out a breathless chuckle, rolling onto his back. "And what do you see?" Obasi's fingers stopped just above his heart. "Something worth protecting." For the first time in his life, Tariq didn't feel like a shadow in someone else's world. He was here. He was seen. He was loved. A sharp knock shattered the peace of the morning. Obasi's jaw tensed. He reached for his robe and pulled it over his shoulders before rising. Tariq sat up, sheets still tangled around his waist. "Enter." A royal guard stepped in, head bowed, but his posture stiff with unease. "Your Majesty, there is news." Obasi narrowed his eyes. "Speak." The guard hesitated, a bad sign. Obasi's stomach tightened as the words finally came. "A spy saw you last night." Obasi's expression didn't waver. He met the guard's gaze, his voice steady. "Let them talk. I am their king, and I do not hide." And with that, the guard left. In a darkened chamber, General Adisa sat in silence. Before him, the spy stood, his head lowered, his voice barely above a whisper. I saw them together, General, on the balcony, kissing. A slow, dangerous smile spread across Adisa's face. Then it's time, he murmured, eyes glinting like a predator's. The kingdom was about to burn. The grand throne room was deathly silent, yet the air felt heavy, charged with something unseen. Massive stone pillars stretched to the sky, their surfaces carved with the history of a kingdom built on blood and ambition. Obasi sat on his throne, the weight of the golden crown pressing against his temples. His mind wasn't here. It was still with Tariq. But the kingdom never sleeps, and neither do its enemies. The royal council stood before him, figures draped in silk and deception. General Adisa, a man with sharp eyes and sharper intentions, stepped forward. His robes of deep crimson flowed like blood pooling at his feet. "Your Majesty," he began, his voice smooth, calculated, a snake's whisper. "There have been troubling whispers in the city." Obasi's jaw tightened. He already knew what was coming. "A king is the foundation of his kingdom," Adisa continued, pacing slowly. "And if that foundation is compromised, the entire empire crumbles." Obasi's fingers curled over the armrests of his throne. "Speak plainly." Adisa stopped, a smirk ghosting over his lips. He wanted Obasi to ask. He wanted this moment. "There are rumors, my king," Adisa said, lowering his voice, "of a man in your chambers, of indiscretions." The room shifted, a ripple of movement, council members glancing at each other, waiting. Obasi held his ground. His heartbeat remained steady, his expression unreadable. "If I took a lover," he said coldly, "would it shake the very walls of this kingdom?" Adisa's smile didn't falter. "No, my king. But if that lover is an enemy of the throne, it just might." Obasi's grip on the throne tightened. Enemy of the throne. Adisa stepped closer, his voice dropping into something more sinister. "Tariq," he said slowly, drawing out the name like poison on his tongue. "Or should I say, the man whose father once led a rebellion against your family." Silence. A perfectly orchestrated moment of doubt, spreading like ink in water. Obasi's heartbeat finally staggered. It had been years since the rebellion, since Tariq's father was executed for treason. Tariq had been a boy then, taken in by the palace, raised under the watchful eyes of the royal court. Had they always been waiting for this moment? Adisa's eyes gleamed. He leaned in, his voice barely above a whisper. "Perhaps the son carries the same thirst for revenge as the father." Obasi stood sharply, the sheer force of his movement sending a cold hush through the room. The torches flickered, shadows stretching and twisting. "I have no time for riddles, Adisa." His voice was ice, cutting through the tension like a blade. Adisa's smirk deepened. "Then allow me to be clear." He gestured to the guards at the doors. The heavy wooden panels creaked open, and two soldiers dragged a man into the throne room, a bruised, battered figure, barely able to stand. Tariq. Obasi's breath caught. A violent storm built inside his chest. Tariq's lip was bleeding, his robes torn, but his eyes, his defiant, unbroken eyes, held steady. Obasi's fingers twitched. A moment ago, he had been composed. A moment ago, he had been in control. Now his kingdom could burn to the ground, and he wouldn't care. Obasi descended the steps of the throne, his robes flowing behind him. "Tariq." His voice was dangerous, low, on the verge of violence. Tariq lifted his chin, his swollen lip curving into a half-smile. "You're late." Obasi turned his gaze to the guards. Who dared touch him? No one answered. The silence was suffocating. Obasi turned back to Adisa, his rage now cold, precise, lethal. "I should have your head for this," he said. Adisa only chuckled. And prove me right? That you'd burn the kingdom for a single man? Obasi knew what had to be done. He turned to the council. His voice was clear, unwavering. Tariq is no enemy of this kingdom. Adisa's smirk faltered. And if you seek to challenge his place at my side, Obasi continued, then you challenge me. The room shifted again, this time in fear. Adisa, for the first time, looked uncertain. This wasn't the reaction he expected. Obasi turned to Tariq and extended a hand. Tariq hesitated. If he took it, there would be no turning back. Then slowly he reached out. Their hands met. The kingdom would never be the same. Obasi's fingers tightened around Tariq's hand, his grip firm, unshaken. He turned to face the royal court, his golden robe gleaming under the flickering torchlight. If any of you still doubt where I stand, Obasi declared, his voice steady and commanding, then let me make it clear, Tariq is mine, and I am his. A murmur rippled through the chamber, but this time it was not one of outrage. It was of realization, of acceptance. In that moment, Obasi was not just a king, he was a man in love, a man who would not be swayed by fear or tradition. Tariq looked up at him, his bruised lips parting slightly in surprise. Obasi was choosing him, completely, publicly, and the kingdom was watching. A slow clap broke the silence. Adisa. The general's smirk had returned, but this time there was a sharpness to it, a desperation. How touching, he sneered, stepping forward. But love is not enough to rule a kingdom. Obasi's gaze remained cold, unreadable. But loyalty is. Adisa's eyes flickered, a crack in his confidence. You speak of loyalty, he scoffed. Yet you let this. He gestured toward Tariq. Cloud your judgment. His father betrayed your family. What makes you think he won't do the same? Obasi tilted his head, considering. Then he turned to Tariq. Would you ever betray me? His voice was quiet but powerful. Tariq didn't hesitate. He stepped closer, his gaze locked onto Obasi's. Never. There was no doubt in his voice, no hesitation, just love and certainty. Obasi turned to the royal council. And what of you? Do you doubt my judgment? The room was silent. Then, one by one, the council members began to bow their heads in respect. One, then two, then more. Even some of the nobles in the back, who had been hesitant before, now knelt before their king. Adisa's face twisted in fury. This was not how it was supposed to go. He had expected outrage, rebellion. Instead, he was losing. The tension in the room shifted. Obasi, always sharp, noticed it. General Adisa, he said, stepping forward. You speak of betrayal, yet you have conspired against your king. Do you take me for a fool? Adisa stiffened. I should have known, Obasi continued. Only a man with something to hide would be so desperate to turn my kingdom against me. You tried to break me, he said. You tried to turn my kingdom against me. Adisa opened his mouth to argue, but Obasi raised a hand, a signal to the guards. Two warriors stepped forward, grabbing Adisa by the arms. For treason, Obasi declared, you will be stripped of your rank and exiled. A murmur of approval spread through the chamber. The kingdom had spoken. As Adisa was dragged away, he locked eyes with Obasi one last time. This isn't over, he hissed. Obasi didn't flinch. Oh, but it is. As the doors slammed shut, the court erupted in cheers of support. Tariq turned to Obasi, his eyes filled with something deeper than relief, pride, love, devotion. You didn't have to do this, Tariq murmured. Obasi reached for him, tracing his fingers gently over Tariq's bruised cheek. Yes, I did. Tariq smiled softly. Why? Obasi leaned in, his lips just brushing against Tariq's ear. Because I love you. The royal chamber was quiet, almost unnaturally so. Tariq sat near the open balcony, his hands clasped together as he gazed out into the night. Obasi stood by the table, pouring 2 cups of wine. His movements were deliberate, steady, unbothered, but he wasn't fooled by Tariq's silence. "You haven't said much," Obasi murmured, handing him a cup. Tariq took it but didn't drink. "You exiled him." Obasi sat beside him, stretching his legs out. "Did you want him dead instead?" Tariq let out a sharp breath. "That's not what I meant. It's just, even with Adisa gone, it doesn't feel like it's over." Obasi studied him, then reached out, tucking a strand of hair behind his ear. "That's because you're still fighting something else, Tariq. Not Adisa, not the council, yourself." Tariq stiffened slightly, but he didn't deny it. Obasi set his cup down and leaned in, resting his forehead against Tariq's. "Talk to me." For a moment, Tariq hesitated, but then, "My father was a traitor," he admitted softly. "He betrayed his king, and because of that, I lost everything. My home, my family's honor. Even now, standing beside you, I feel like maybe I don't deserve this." Obasi exhaled slowly. Then he lifted Tariq's chin, forcing him to meet his eyes. "I will tell you this once, and I want you to listen carefully." His voice was calm, yet firm. "You are not your father. Your loyalty is not something I question. You are by my side because you deserve to be, and I will fight anyone who dares say otherwise." Tariq's breath caught. Obasi leaned in, pressing a slow, lingering kiss to his lips. A kiss meant to reassure, to claim, to tell him everything words could not. Tariq melted into it, his fingers grasping Obasi's robe, holding on as if letting go would make him lose this moment forever. When they pulled apart, Obasi gave him a small, knowing smirk. "Now drink your wine before I make you." Tariq chuckled softly, finally taking a sip. The weight in his chest felt a little lighter. The next morning, Tariq was awoken by a firm knock at his door. He groaned, stretching before calling out, "Come in." To his surprise, it was one of the older councilmen, an elder with sharp eyes and a face carved by time. "You are summoned to the Great Hall," the elder said. "The council has decided you must prove yourself." Tariq sat up straighter. "Prove myself?" The elder nodded. "There are those who question your place beside the king. If you wish to silence them, you must face the trial of worth." Tariq frowned. "And if I refuse?" The elder's expression didn't change. "Then you will always be seen as an outsider, not a consort, not a leader." Tariq inhaled deeply. He had fought wars, survived betrayals, earned the love of a king, and now he had one more battle to fight. The great hall was packed with nobles and warriors, all watching as Tariq stepped forward. At the center of the room stood 3 challenges: the trial of strength, the trial of wisdom, and the trial of loyalty. Tariq took a deep breath. Then, without hesitation, he stepped into the first challenge. Obasi watched from his throne, his face unreadable, but inside, his heart was steady. He had no doubts. No matter the challenge, Tariq would not break. And when it was over, the world would know. Tariq belonged at his side. An elder stepped forward, his face unreadable. "This trial is a test of the mind. Answer wisely, for one wrong step may cost you everything." Tariq nodded, his mind sharpening. The elder gestured to a large golden bowl filled with water. In the water, 3 stones rested at the bottom, one black, one white, and one red. The elder spoke. "A king has 3 sons. He gives each one a stone, black, white, and red. The son with the red stone will rule, but the king dies before revealing who holds it. The sons argue, each claiming to have the red stone. How does the rightful heir prove he is the chosen one?" The room was deathly silent. Tariq's eyes flickered over the water, the smooth stones gleaming beneath the surface. He thought carefully. The answer wasn't in the stones, it was in the test itself. Then he smiled. "He does not need to prove it," Tariq answered. "A true ruler does not fight for power. He leads through wisdom and action. The one who remains silent and lets the others argue, he is the rightful heir." A pause. Then the elder laughed, a deep, approving sound. "Well done," he said. Tariq had passed this trial, the final test. The elder stepped forward again, this time holding a sealed letter. His expression was unreadable. "Tariq," he said, "inside this letter is an order. It demands that you leave this palace, that you abandon your place beside the king for the good of the kingdom." A ripple of tension spread through the court. "If you refuse," the elder continued, "it will be seen as selfishness, as a man putting his own desires before the people." Obasi's fingers clenched against the armrest of his throne, but he said nothing. This was Tariq's battle. Tariq stepped forward, taking the letter in his hands. He did not open it. Instead, he tore it in half. A collective gasp echoed through the hall. "I don't need to read it," Tariq said, his voice steady. "My loyalty is not dictated by words on a page. My loyalty is here, beside my king. I will not leave." Silence. Then the elder smiled, a slow, approving smile. "You have passed," he announced. The final trial was over. Tariq had won. The hall erupted into applause, and Obasi stood from his throne, stepping down to meet him. Without hesitation, in front of the entire kingdom, he took Tariq's face in his hands and kissed him. It was not just a kiss of passion. It was a declaration, a promise. Tariq was his, and the kingdom had no choice but to accept it. The celebrations lasted for days. The people had seen Tariq's strength, his intelligence, his unwavering love for their king. There was no more doubt, no more whispers. He belonged. He got married to Obasi under the full moon, with lanterns floating into the sky like stars. Obasi stood proudly, his hand clasped in Tariq's as they exchanged vows. "You are my heart," Obasi whispered, "my future, my everything." Tariq smiled, eyes glistening, "And you are mine." They sealed it with a kiss as the kingdom erupted in joy. They had fought for this love, and now it was theirs to keep. As the final lantern drifted into the sky, Tariq leaned against Obasi's shoulder, watching the glow fade into the heavens. A new chapter had begun, one not built on fear or doubt, but on love, unbreakable, everlasting. And as long as they stood together, nothing, not betrayal, not trials, not even the ghosts of the past, could take it away.